Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and we'll be joined in just a second with Tim Thomas, a personal show Ole Miss legend, we'll say, and a former player with Ole Miss basketball as well. But I do want to let everybody know the Grove Collective is doing their March to Victory campaign. And what this is a March Madness style bracket tournament to where you compete region against region to who can give the most money to Ole Miss athletics. They're in the Elite Eight right now, and they are going to have a goal of raising over $10 million in the month of March and 10,000 total members in the Grove Collective is another goal for them as well. So check them out at thegrovecollective.com/march to victory. That's thegrovecollective.com/march to victory. And let's take Ole Miss athletics to the next level. Anyway, I'm joined by Tim Thomas, and we're going to talk a little bit of men's basketball. The basketball season is over. Chris Beard has declined an invitation to the National Invitational Tournament, which honestly, the NIT it hasn't really been the same for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's I went a couple NIT times, a couple of times to the NIT, and it's a letdown, no doubt. It's a letdown. They got to guard Kevin McHale one year up in Minnesota. That was kind of a cool thing. But we went to NCAA that 1 year. We won the SEC tournament, played Kansas, got beat, I think, of 69-66. I still remember they had a kid named Darnell Valentine who played pro for a while. But this definitely a letdown. But I like to say this, Will Wade, remember about a year ago, we were thinking, who's Ole Miss going to hire? You know, you got Chuck, you got Beard, you got Wade, and what are they going to do? And I think I remember I said something maybe not too nice about Will Wade because he had been in trouble with the FBI and the NCAA shoe contracts and paying his players a lot of money that wasn't legal back then. So I may have called him a thug by mistake, but maybe he's changed his ways. Maybe he's decided to do better. I hope so. But what's so kind of sad about it is now all that's legal. Everything a year or so ago was against the rules. Now the kids, bukus of money, contracts, Nicholas Air, Real Tree, you know, all the contracts. So it's all up and above board now. So I was saying some things back in, but now look, he's in the NCAA tournament, and we just turned down a NIT bid, which is okay. We had a good year. Let's go ahead and say it. 20 wins. We were saying that would be a good year. So Chris Beard has done well, and I know we've talked about it. He's in the portal. We've talked about the portal. The portal's where it's at. I'm not sure. I know we mentioned maybe 8 to 10. Maybe we'll see how it goes. I haven't seen any of our players get in the portal yet. So when that starts, you see that coming. That means they've had their exit interviews. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and talking about Will Wade, Corey Burton, who does Locked On Vandy, they're going through a coaching search. Will Wade's a Nashville resident. That's his hometown. So there's probably some ties to Vanderbilt. Now, Vandy's going to have to figure out that decision still has some coattails on it, and Vandy still has to figure out a way to do it. But he just took that McNeese State team to 30-3 in year one, and that McNeese State team has not had a winning record in basketball before he got there since like 2011. I mean, this is beyond impressive, and honestly, Will Wade, I think, would be a home run hire at Vandy. And I don't care about any of the bad press. None of that is relevant. None of that is meaningful. The guy wins basketball games.
Yeah, you could say he's an expert at this. He's been doing it for all these years. This NIL thing is right down his alley, and that's okay. And I think Beard, he'll do good this coming year. I think he's probably got with Kiffin and took some notes from him about how to handle the kids and how to look for this and that on their attitude and how they play ball, selfishness and all that culture. So hopefully we'll come up with a good portal run. We needed baseball. Several of those guys are doing good. So football's done well. So I like to say let's make Chris Beard the portal king of basketball. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it could work because I've talked about a little bit that this season was resembling the 2022 football season. The way that ended and the way this ended, there's some similarities there. I think there was some culture issues, and maybe they missed it on a couple of evaluations in the transfer portal. Which, hey, honestly, that should happen. They did not have much time whenever they got here this time a year ago. Honestly, later than this, they in April with the transfer portal window open, they immediately had to go. Evaluations or not, they immediately had to go. This year, they have a chance to kind of target strike evaluations in the transfer portal, and there's a much higher rate of success. And plus, they know some things that they need to avoid in 2025.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. They got time to do it, like you said, and there's not as many players that they have to evaluate like Lane Kiffin and his bunch. But I was watching Rebel Yell Hotline the other night. He talked to Walker Jones, and he mentioned there was going to be more than a 20% increase for basketball. And then he mentioned the word later on, severe increase. So it could be 20 or more. I don't know how far severe goes after 20, but they Beard to get his contract renewed or rolled over, whatever you got, I think renewed. He asked for more money. He needed more money to make a team. He wants a team kind of like Auburn. I hate to say that, but he wants 10 players. Auburn has 10 players that they can just swap in and out, no problem. Keep their legs fresh. The three fall. So it's a lot of good things about Auburn, the way they do things. But by the way, I think Auburn's going to do well in the NCAA tournament because of that.
Well, I think Auburn has a chance to beat absolutely everybody in the tournament. It would not surprise me if they won 6 games and was lifting the trophy on that Monday night. It would also not surprise me if they didn't make it past the Sweet 16 or the round of 32, because they have been known to, outside of their home arena, to every now and then just randomly throw up a stinker. And if that happens at the wrong times, one of those teams would be good enough to get them.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. My bracket, I got UConn. Of course, they won it last year. Purdue's good. Tennessee's good. Out of the SEC, Auburn, Alabama. I don't know, Florida. Who knows? It's hard to know, but it's a great tournament for basketball. People love basketball. I don't watch as much as I used to. I used to watch every minute, every game. It's just no way to do that anymore with time. But it's a great thing for college basketball, the March Madness.
So Ole Miss looking in the transfer portal, and we are at the stage, just so everybody knows, we're at the contact stage. They're not even able to visit because they can't get into the portal. Well, they could have gotten the portal on Monday, but visits should start to happen fairly closely. And if somebody pops up on campus, we'll pay attention. But contacted names, this kind of gives you an idea of what Ole Miss is trying to recruit in the transfer portal, does it not?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I saw one, Jacob Cruz already was committed to Minnesota. I'm sorry, Missouri. I think you list these guys: Tyron Cook, Cameron Hunter, Xavier Edmonds, Marcus Foster, Jamal Gibson, Cameron Hunter. I think I said him before. Dakota Lefew, Mary Williams, Kylan Milton, Jacob Meyer, Michael Ajayi, and Clark Slugert. Some of these names, Jordan, Ivy, Curry. So it's hard to know who's going where. And like you said, they just contacted these guys. When we start seeing Ole Miss guys get in the portal, and then you're going to start seeing a lot of guys coming to visit. So we got to follow the visit. If y'all's heard that. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be real interesting because Javen Brakefield was the guy that carried, I think, all the guys around pretty much last year. He's the one that convinced them to stay. And he does a good job of that. And I would think he's going to stay, but I'm thinking him and Beard are having a heart-to-heart talk about his lack of defensive skills and effort on defense. I don't know how that's going to work, but you got the two guys, John Bowl, the freshman, and Eduardo Flafke. He's a freshman, so that's 2. You only get 13 scholarships, so you got 11 there. That's where people kind of look at that. So, maybe Brakefield stays, maybe Juju, maybe another one, Nunez. It's hard to say. I think they're going to definitely go for a true point guard.
I,
Did good, but I think a true point guard is number 1.
I think everybody needs to look at the heights of all these players that are being recruited and you see these players that are contacted, they're all 6'4" to 6'7". They're basically people that can play 2 guard, they can play the 3, they can even play the 4 if necessary, but it's kind of that positionless thing that Chris Beard, that's how he's made his chops. And I think that's the one thing that you can take away from the first week of the transfer portal is there's a lot of positionless players that are being recruited and being contacted by Chris Beard.
Yeah, him and the 4 coaches, or maybe 5 counting Win Case, they've had a lot of contacts. You know they do. A lot of players want to come to Ole Miss, and they know these people. They hopefully they've got together and they got a good list of who they want. They've decided how they want to make up their schedule. I mean, their roster. How many guards? How many big guys inside? And they got to have shooters, right? 3-point shooters if possible. You got to have as many as you can get. And you got to have a point guard. And we talked about the beef feeders inside. We have some guys inside that takes up space and really want to rebound. They really want to rebound.
Yeah, I want a Raheem Lockhart or a Dwayne Curtis in this transfer portal class. I think that's necessary for this Ole Miss basketball team.
Yeah, you can see the lack of that. We talked about we were kind of guard dominant, just a lot of the guys 6'4", 6'5", and that's great for shooting, great for handling the ball, great for being a point guard. But when you go inside and some of those big guys inside, you got to be tough. You got to want to rebound. If you watch Texas A&M the other night when we played them, they love to rebound. They love it. They enjoy it. They just have that DNA, I guess you call it, that they love to go get the ball. They don't just stand there. They go get it. So we need several of those guys inside. John Bowl, I've read his interview. He thinks he's a one done. We'll see how that goes. And the Flafke guy, he's supposed to be a great shooter. I believe he's originally from Brazil.
Hey, if he's a one and done, that means that Ole Miss basketball is going to be really good next year because he's going to be a dominant 5. And you take those positionless players, you get an idea of what you saw from Ole Miss this year. If you had a one and done caliber big that can offensively handle it and defensively rebound the basketball and also play just basic defense at time and let the guards kind of work, I think this basketball team's 23, 24 win team next year if you get that kind of an effort from John Ball.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what he says in his mind. Of course, he made the McDonald's team, which that's a higher ranking team to make, and we'll see how that goes. I hope we'll try to plan on watching that game whenever it comes out. But they're doing evaluating now. The coaches, Beard, they're evaluating, and they got to do that. They got to do better than they did last year. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. They got to evaluate better. They got to look at things that they maybe not looked at. That it's all new to everybody, really. It's all new, evaluating the players and understand the defense part of it and the rebounding part of it. So they're doing that. They're using all their contacts from all the places they've been, and they'll come up with a great team. You just kind of curious to me how many is going to end up leaving. That's kind of curious. I got to believe it's going to happen one day this week because I know he's doing those exit interviews. But he may. I know one time he said he gives them a few days to think about it one way or the other, and he may be thinking about it which ones he wants to keep, giving them a chance. It'd be nice to keep a couple. Be nice to keep a couple if like Brakefield. It'd be great to keep him if possible, and maybe Juju. That'd be good too.
Yeah, I've heard rumors as many as 8 transfers, not out. I'm talking about players coming in, which obviously means players probably are going to have to go out because outside of Morrell and outside of Jamarian Sharp and Flanagan's gone as well, you're still looking at 3 or 4 transfers that could happen just for Ole Miss to have the scholarships open available to take 8 transfers in. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, 13 is it. It was back when I was playing. It still is. I don't know if I ever raise that up or not, but 13 is a scholarship limit. Of course, you can bring in several walk-ins, and they may end up giving some of those guys some kind of NIL money to help them out. But it's 13 is it, so that's where you got to shoot for. And it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking every day on the internet, just looking, who's going to pop up first, because it's going to be an onslaught, I think. It could be. But he may keep more than we think he might. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But definitely there was a attitude and an effort problem this past year, and he don't like it. He don't have to deal with it anymore. That's one of the main reasons they turned down the NIT. Back in the day, we used to vote on it. The team would vote on it, the players and so forth, the coaches, and that's how it went. I don't know how it went this time. I don't know if Beard just said this is the way it's going to be. We got to get in the portal. We're going to do better next year. But I believe we'll win more than 20 next year, like you said, and we got to really do better in the SEC than we did this year.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tim Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And if Ole Miss gets a big portal edition or something like that, we'll bring you back then. But that's a nice wrap up of this season, man.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope we get to come back and do it our time to do. I believe it. I believe it. I've believed all year long, and I think he could be the portal king of basketball. I hope he is. If he does, we're going to have a good season next year.
Yes, we will. Anyway, thank you very much, Tim. We'll talk to you later, bud.
All right. Howdy toddy.
Howdy toddy.